sorry, Dean, they told me you were going to be in the microphone. No problem.
Okay. All right, sorry. I guess that's good. All right, so we'll go through the PowerPoint. Is short, it's nothing, there's no quiz at the end or anything. And then after that, we'll open it up and we have the nursing counselors here, so if you have any questions for them. We do have the clinical clearance people coming also if you wanted to, you need anything from them. And I do have some flyers here in the front that some of you might find helpful. Let's see, where did I leave I had a pointer. Must have dropped it somewhere. What did I do with oh, there we go. There we go. All right, well, that's me. So if any of you ever need to reach out to me, we ask that you go through the chain, right? You go through everybody before, and then if you still need some assistance, I'll be happy to meet with you. On occasion, you might find that just walk into my office and saying, I want to say a few words, you might be able to get you a time right there and then, but that might not be the case due to my schedule. So if you do happen to need to see me for whatever reason, that's the information for my assistant, and she can help you schedule something. I'm from El Paso. Well, I was born in Juarez, and I came here when I was 17, but I've been here, most of my life. I graduated from UTEP with my BSN in 2007, so some of you may have been born around that time. I started in the hospital, but then education was always kind of in the back of my mind, so I went back to get a master's in nursing education specifically. There's many specialties, and some of the faculty might have, maybe nurse practitioners may have masters in management and leadership, and so many other things, right? But my master's was specifically on education because I wanted to focus on that for sure. As if that wasn't enough, then I ended up in a PhD program after talking too much about it, and just did it then. And so I started that with COVID, and that made it extra challenging. So while I did not have any children or things like that, while I was doing my undergrad, I kind of know how that feels when you're trying to go to school and talk to your teachers and everything, where you have a work to go to, and you have homework and all those things, right? So my PhD was also in education. I wanted to make sure that I was approaching it, my goals, which were always higher education, really not. I was never interested in the clinical end of it, like nurse practitioner. Nothing wrong with that, but that was nothing that really caught my attention. That's me in nursing school. Probably about 20 pounds ago. It's probably 20 years ago. I think it's from 2005. So one of the questions that somebody submitted is like, how do you stay motivated during nursing school to make it through, right? And for me, it was eyes on the prize. I always had this card that I wanted to get and these things I wanted to do, and every time I had to do something or study for an exam or get out for clinicals, I was always thinking eyes on the prize. So that helped me. But the picture is, one way to show you whether you're in nursing school or not. The years are gonna pass, and you're gonna get older, so you can look at yourself in 5 years, and you're either a nurse or you're not, right? So where do you want to be? So we used to wear white back then, so you should feel lucky you don't have to wear white anymore. Every now and then, somebody will show up, and I think a couple of my classmates will get sent home every now and then because their underwear showed under the whites. So, but now our uniform is not white, so that's good. So what did I do? Because I often get asked, well, were you a nurse? Like, I've been asked, are you a nurse? Like, well, yeah, I have the RN after my name, but I did work with patients for several years. 10 years, after 10 years, I said, that sounds like a good round number, let's stop right there. I did my share. My main area was medical surgical, which is one of the, perhaps less popular and heaviest areas. Orthopedics was probably my favorite, and neurology. I ended up in oncology somehow towards the end. Not my cup of tea, mainly because I was having a hard time dying with every patient, and that's not a good thing sometimes. As a nurse, I never worked with, children or in the labor and delivery area, so I didn't get to see the birth part. I got to see the end of life and a lot of other things. So nursing puts you through a lot sometimes. So I decided that was not for me, but the good thing is that nursing has so many other things you can do that if you're not liking something that you used to like, then you can always try something different. That's definitely not an issue. So I ended up doing telemetry as well, outpatient surgery. So for nursing, if I decide I don't want to do something today, then I can switch to something tomorrow. I mean, you might need some training depending on how drastic the change is, right? But for the most part, if you want to go from med surg to telemetry, you can do that with a few weeks of training. Now, if you want to go from newborn nursery and you've done that for 20 years, and now you want to go to adult intensive care unit, that might be a little different. But that doesn't mean you couldn't do it. So that's the beauty of it. So I started as a preceptor for nursing students when I was in the hospital. I work at Providence Memorial there for 10 years, and I work at a surgical center on Edgemere by Bassett Place. I was the director of nursing there, of all 2 nurses, including myself, But so I joined EPCC in 2012, so I was an open lab instructor, so those of you who are in the nursing program know what that is. So that's how I started. I did that for a few months, and I joined fundamentals, and then I ended up in 2nd semester, and then I did 4th. I just need to learn how to say no sometimes, I guess. But the reason I ended up in a lot of these different units is because I was not afraid to try something different. So I gotta say, I've learned a lot by going to all these other units, whereas other of my coworkers may have been like, oh, I don't want to go to telemetry because it's scary, it's different. And I will be like, yeah, I guess, let's see how it goes. Same thing here, so I've done, I did pediatric clinicals, which is, all right, I can manage. OB, that one I refuse. Not my thing, I did mental health once. The last several years of teaching at EPCC, I spent them in the transitions program, so I was a coordinator for that track for a while. And then I will teach at the vocational program in the summer for several years, so I kind of have experience in all those areas. I did also manage to work at Texas Tech for 6 years. Something that you'll learn about nurses, if you know any, is that somehow we like to work 2 jobs or 3 sometimes for some reason. So be careful about doing that to yourselves. But as nurses, sometimes in the hospital, that's how you plan life. Okay, I want to go to Disneyland, so that's like 3 shifts right there. So that's how we plan those things sometimes. So I've been the dean. I took over as interim in December of 2023 and was officially named the dean I took over as interim in August and then was officially named the dean in December. So I've been in that role since then. Ever since then, we have made a lot of changes to make sure we keep the good things about our program that everybody in the community likes, and also to maybe change a couple of the things that need some work. So I think we're doing pretty good. So so the nursing programs that we have, so we have the associates, that's 4 semesters. Nice thing about that program compared to other schools around town is that you get the summer off. Most of the other schools, if not all of them, actually are year-round, so you have to just, you imagine you finish the semester and you have like a weekend to get it together before you go again. I'm like, you know. So that's a nice thing here. We have the transitions program, so if you do vocational nursing or if you are a vocational nurse, you can come back to us to get your associate's degree in 2 semesters. Our vocational program, that one lives at Mission del Paso campus, and we have a 3-year certificate program, so you can test to become a vocational nurse. So we do have the option that those students in the ADM program, particularly those who start in the fall, so if any of you are in fundamentals, so you can do fundamentals in the fall, they can do 2nd semester in the spring, and you have the option to become a vocational nurse by the end of the summer. You will have to just, of course, go through school the whole summer. And at that point, you decide you either, I'm done, I want to take the test, go work, make some money, you know, or you can, and then later come back through a transitions program, or you can get that as your backup plan, but then come back in the fall to finish. But you have that, you know, there for sure. We're also coming up with a program, a different track. So we're keeping our regular vocational program that will allow you to get your vocational nursing certificate during the day, but we will have a new one coming up next year in which the classes will be between the hours of 5 and 10 p.m. During the week, and then clinicals will be long Saturdays, pretty much like 12 hours. Not every Saturday, but several Saturdays. The trade-off, though, is that the program is going to turn into 5 semesters instead of 3. But that will allow people who need to work, you know, to pay for school and you know, children, I hear they like to eat sometimes, right? So accreditation, I'm not planning to read this whole sentence to you, but the reason why accreditation is important, and sometimes that's an issue with proprietary schools, which is private schools. You know, in a private school, you walk in and you get registered right there and then, but then what happens, they close and then you show up to class one day and then, you know, the school's no longer there. Or sometimes you get through your whole program, you get your degree, you're good, right? But then you want to enroll in a BSN program or an MSN program, and that school was not accredited, and now you're stuck. That's as far as you can go. So that's one of the trade-offs, right? If you need to transfer from our program, you're military or, you know, just need to move to another city, you could transfer relatively easily to another community college. In Texas and some other schools, they might also take our credits because we're an accredited program. Schools that are not accredited, they usually do not transfer. Their credits do not transfer to other institutions. So it's a higher standard that we put ourselves through to make the program more appealing and also, you know, better for the community and for you guys. So our NCLEX pass rates, one of the questions I got was related to the NCLEX. So our NCLEX pass rates are pretty good. So last year we were 94.66 for ADN, and then for vocational we were 94%. So there's 5 schools in El Paso. We were the second one. So, and by a little bit, not very far. And our vocational program is doing great. One disadvantage to some extent that we have Our vocational classes are relatively smaller, so if one student does not pass on the first time, it's gonna take a big chunk of that. So that doesn't necessarily mean that a lot of students did not pass. We do have a pretty good second time pass rate, so we're all gonna pass on the first try, but in case you didn't, our pass rates for the second attempt are pretty good. Whereas in some other institutions, the pass rate on the second time is less than 50%. What that tells you is that a lot of our students who might not have passed on the first time, they might just have been anxious about it rather than not knowing what they need to know. This year we're doing pretty good so far as well. So you want to go through a program good with passing rates. So if you ever you're looking for a nursing program and you're considering hours and other ones, look online. That's public information. What are your pass rates? If they're dropping below 80% every other year, then that's probably a sign that might not be the best place to go. So why EPCC? So our NCLEX pass rates are pretty good. And I want you to keep in mind, so the first one is UTEP. But a BSN is 120 credit hours. Our ADN is 60. We both have the challenge of preparing our graduates to pass the same test. We get to do it in half the time, right? You don't get an easier test, you don't get a different test plan, you have to know exactly the same one as a graduate from a university. Our scores are up there, okay? We have a great reputation in the community as far as the quality of our graduates. I hear it time after time, even if they don't know who I am, I want an EPCC nurse to work with us. Our program is very hands-on. So one of the things that we hear a lot from the community is our students are not afraid to go there and do it. Whereas some of the other institutions, they spend a little more time in the classroom, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but they don't spend that much time practicing in the lab and simulations, so they're a little more scared to do when they get out there, and our students do not have that problem much. We have the most affordable tuition in the region. I know it's still, might feel like a lot when you're paying for it, but it's the most affordable for sure. We do have partnerships with different programs that allow you to cover some tuition costs, and I have some information here about Project Bravo and Project Arriba, so if you're already in the program or you're getting in the program soon, look at that information. Both of them can help students pay for costs, depending on your income and other things they consider. They might pay, as little as, your books, but they can pay as much as your books, your tuition, your uniform, give you a gift card to buy some groceries and things like that. And then there's a lot of scholarships that the college will offer and grants. Our facilities, when it comes to the actual equipment, and sometimes the color might not be my favorite color, but the actual equipment that you're practicing with, those beds, those things, we make every effort to have everything in good working order. There's a couple of items that we're replacing this year. We actually replace all the simulators in our nursing simulation lab. All the mannequins, all the technology, all the computers, and that was, close to probably like $800,000 worth of equipment. So don't be fooled to think that by coming to a community college, you're gonna get to practice with equipment and technology that is, a little lower level, because it's really not. We do have a heavy simulation focus in our programs. So that's a great opportunity. There's a lot of things that you will not get a chance to practice in the hospital because they don't happen often, or because of the high risk. So in simulation, you get to practice a high risk situation in a low risk environment, right? Because the mannequin is not gonna die. And if he does, then we'll bring him back. That's not a problem. Well, he might die. Actually, in fourth semester, we have a scenario in which the whole thing is the mannequin will die and you need to bring him back. But you know that from the beginning, okay? You're not gonna be, you don't walk in there waiting like, oh, what's gonna happen? No, not at all. So as far as compared to other programs, we have individualized attention. Of course, we're not gonna necessarily be able to do the one-on-one type thing, but you know, going to a university, sometimes you're gonna walk into an auditorium with, you know, 80, 100, 150 students. Good luck getting the instructor to remember your name and to talk to you one-on-one. You're cool, I guess, but so here, most of our courses are team taught. That means that there is more than one instructor assigned to the course. We might have a part-time instructor that will only help in some parts of the course, but for the most part, all the instructors will split the students in the group and will create what's called a mentoring group. So you will always have an instructor to go to for that individualized attention. So the instructor will usually have 10 to 15 students in their mentoring group. When it comes to clinical group, the state of Texas allows us to go up to 10 students per group, but I don't think we ever had groups of 10 in the last year or before that. If we end up having groups of 9 or 10, it's, you know, because we end up just having, you know, a faculty member that we could then bring back or whatever, something along those lines. But we will have groups of as little as 6, 7 people a lot of the times. That allows you to be there with your instructor and get a more individualized attention from them. We are creating also this culture at EPCC in which we're very student-oriented. For that, we just ask for the students to talk to us and let us know how we can help you beforehand. It's not unusual that a situation comes to my office, but it's too late already. So, like an example, we had a student whose son was sick over the weekend, so she never had time to study. And then she took the test on Monday because her son was not in the hospital on Monday. But she didn't do well because she hadn't studied, right? And she was afraid that, well, you know, I couldn't, my son wasn't in the hospital on Monday. And I'm like, well, we can work with things like that. I cannot promise that every single time we'll give you exactly what you wish you had, but we can be flexible a lot of the times if you let us know ahead of time, right? Our goal is to get you in and out of the program with a degree, you know, the sooner we can, okay? And life happens, right? So we're here to help you with that. Sometimes the best course of action is not necessarily continuing this semester, but dropping and coming back later. And if that's the best option, we'll discuss that with you. But in other situations, I want you to feel comfortable talking to your faculty and the coordinators and your counselors and to myself. One of the questions I got also is, do you help your students get employment? So close to 100 students, and I don't have the newest data because we get it from the state. It's usually about 98, 97%. And that might not be because our students are not hireable, but because they choose to not work or, you know, things like that. So as we speak, in the Little Temple building over there, actually I have a hiring event going on, well, a residency program event with one of the hospitals in town. So they offer them a residency program during their last semester. They're already working in the facility as CNAs. They're getting a different rate, a higher rate that they will get as a CNA or a patient care technician. They're working in the unit where they're gonna work when they graduate. They get flexibility for the schedule. They get a preceptor, so they graduate, they already have a job. So we do partner with all the bigger facilities in town, and most of our students who want to be hired before they graduate are hired before they graduate. So I think that's something that it may be common in the health careers, but that's not something you'll hear in other areas. So sometimes students choose not to work right away. They want to go get an RN, the BSN degree, or take a break, things like that. So we've seen that, but we're pretty confident that our students can get hired, pretty soon after graduation. And there's hundreds of jobs opening in the community all the time. When you're a new nurse, you might have a little bit of a disadvantage. Well, I don't know if I will call it a disadvantage, but when you're new, you might have some limitations. They might not be hiring in the 8 to 5 shift at the newborn nursery with the cute babies all the time, right? So you might have to start night shift and weekends and things like that. But after you get a few years of experience, you get to a point in which you can decide, you know what, I don't think I like this job anymore. Let me go find another one, and then next week you're somewhere else. So we have partnership with 5 different programs, RN to BSN programs. 3 of them will allow you dual enrollment. I believe there was Grand Canyon University were here last week. We had they had an informational session. We had the University of Texas as well. We actually have 2 students also from Texas graduating this semester from EPCC, where the ADN, and with Texas Tech with their BSN at the same time. Okay, so that's in our website. And then we have an NCLEX review course embedded into the curriculum now that it does a lot of great things the students pass. It helps with our passing scores, but it also helps decrease anxiety a lot. Did I skip that one? So if you need to rank into a nursing program, the best thing to do is to talk to the counselors over here. On occasion, I have, and we just had ranking last week, and we had a couple of situations coming up about like, hey, why was not my name not in the ranking and this and that? And I think 100% of those situations could have been prevented if somebody had talked to a nursing counselor beforehand. If you're already in the program, that's also something to consider. Sometimes you might not be doing too well on the first exam, second exam, and they're like, I'm gonna drop the class and not tell anybody because I don't wanna talk to anybody. But then a counselor could have given you a couple of pointers about like, hey, maybe did you know that you cannot drop the class without dropping the clinical, things like that. And also talk to your faculty before you take those decisions. Sometimes you might not have done well in an exam 1 and 2, but turns out that exam 1 and 2 are only 20% of your whole grade, and it was still pretty doable. So talk to us. T's. So, and the numbers are still fresh in my head because we just had ranking, last week. So if you're trying to rank into the program, the 70 people who made it into the ADN program, which is our more competitive program, none of them have any C's. Not even one. Now, does that mean if you have a C, you're not gonna get into the program? Not necessarily. But how's your T's, right? We had a lot of T scores in the high 90s, but we had some in the 62s. We had a couple 62, 63, 64, so minimum 62. But the one who had 63 and 62, they had all A's on everything. So you have to really consider that. So talk to a counselor if you're trying to rank, so you find that best. We can never promise you anything really, but we can give you some good advice about how to make yourself more competitive. Some students might find it easier to take a free EPCC TEAS workshop, take the TEAS again, than taking a whole class for the whole semester to get a higher letter grade. Complete clinical clearance. So right now, we're being asked by several people, like, I know I wasn't included in the ranking, but I was just missing, my titer for this and that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe. So make sure you start that process sooner. So you're trying to rank, beware that some of the clinical clearance requirements can take several weeks. Because if you need a vaccine series, you cannot get all the shots at once. And then if you need a titer, and then you come out, a titer is what shows that you're actually immune in your blood, right? So if you turn out that you're not immune, now you have to get the vaccine. And now you have to, so it takes several weeks. So waiting until the last minute is like leaving no room for anything else to happen. Ranking courses, so of course, if you're gonna get a C, do that in history or something else, but not for math, not for pharm, not for anatomy and physiology. Okay, so here are our counselors. The information's on our website. And actually, Jesus is right here. Our program coordinators can also be very helpful to you. So if you have things going on in your life, you don't know how you're gonna make it happen, reach out to us. And Ms. Jimenez is right here. She's the ADM program coordinator. She lives in the B building, room 218, in case you need anything. So now you're in nursing school, so how do you get through the whole thing? It is hard, it's always been hard, and it's always gonna be hard, but it is doable. That's why hospitals are full of nurses, and so are all the other facilities. So you need to start with the positive. So like, what if no, like you're just gonna finish and that's it, right? C's get degrees. Now C's in nursing are 78 and higher, by the way. But C's get degrees. No hospital is ever gonna care what your GPA was on graduation, what your grades were in pharm or anything. They're gonna they wanna care that you're a graduate of a school, that you have a license, and locally, EPCC sounds good on a resume. And if life happens, don't get discouraged. Sometimes you might be forced to take the scenic route to get there, but that's fine. At the end, you get the same letters after your name, and nobody cares where you went to school and what degrees you got. But you do have to plan your life. So those of you already in the program or who want to get into the program, I want you to, if you have not done so, you're gonna get all your family in a room, and then you're gonna tell them, I'm gonna do this, and this is what I need you to do for me. Everybody who graduated from nursing school, to some extent at least, will tell you, my family were not ready for this type of commitment, and my family's gone to college before. And they're like, where are you? Why are you never here? You don't help in the house anymore, blah, blah, blah. So really, you wanna get your family or your support system to get on board with you, and then come up with plan A, B, C, and D. What happens if your car breaks down? What happens if your kids get sick? Because they seem to get sick all the time in daycares. And what happens if somebody gets COVID and then they cannot watch your kids? So you really need to have all that figured out to some extent. Decrease work hours if at all possible. I know working, as much as we all like our job sometimes, it's not something that I'm choosing to do if I'm going to school full time, right? So look for something that will give you the flexibility that you need to be in nursing school, and then look for funding options. There's a lot of money out there that goes unused because everybody thinks like, oh, I'm not smart enough, I'm not gonna get it. And that's often not the case, okay? So EPCC has a lot of scholarships, and they're gonna be doing a lot of scholarships, annual scholarships. So there was a donation made to the college a few years ago for, $30 million, I think, from, what's the name of that lady, Scott? It's the Amazon lady. There we go, Mackenzie Scott. And so what the college decided to do with the money is to create an endowment. So they did invest the money, and $30 million generate a lot of interest. So they're using the money to generate interest in perpetuity to do scholarships. So there's a lot of scholarships out there. Project Arriba and Project Bravo, I have seen throughout the years that I've been in the college, students getting Project Arriba in third semester, second semester. Why not on first? Because they say, oh, I'm not gonna qualify, and they will have qualified from the beginning. The worst I can tell you is no, okay? Take advantage of all the resources. We have tutoring center, we have office hours for faculty, and sometimes we don't see enough people on those. So make sure you take advantage of that to help you succeed. Seek help early. Again, once the classes already failed, we cannot do, much. Like we had a lady once, not this semester, who was pregnant and she was having complications. So it was close to the end of the semester and she was like, well, this is it, I'm failing, and then she failed. But if she had communicated, we could have dropped her past the drop date, because I can do that with some documentation, okay? Not just, don't get idea. But the key here is I'm not promising anything in every case, but I promise I'll try, okay? And work on your prereqs. So when it comes to the prereqs, whether you're starting the program or you're in the program already, historically, we have been taking classes and we forget a lot of what we learned, right? You may have forgetting a lot from your government class or history class and this and that has not created a lot of chaos in your life, but that's no longer the case for pharmacology. We expect you in every class to remember what you learned in pharmacology. We do reviews here and there, but truly we expect you to have that in your head already. So if you walked into a fundamentals or a med surg class, having taken pharmacology and anatomy and physiology, but you don't even remember on what side the liver is, then it's kind of hard to move from there when you're not even here yet, okay? So that's a good review during the break. Make sure you go back to your basics and get that content fresh in your head. Because students are like, oh, what book are we gonna use in fundamentals for second semester? I want it so I can start reading everything. Like, well, take a break or go back and review your basics. And that's all I had. I think that covers a lot of the questions that were submitted, but I guess, does anybody else have anything? Question, comments, suggestions? Oh, that's a good question. So a registered nurse, so a graduate from a four-year university or an associate program or diploma will get can test for the registered nurse. So a registered nurse allows you to practice nursing independently, of course, under the prescription of a physician, right? A vocational nursing is something we call a supervised practice, which the wording is a little funny legally because you can be an LVN by yourself in many areas like home health, right? But you're still technically under the supervision of somebody else. There is several things that LVNs will not be able to do depending of the state or where you live, like give some type of therapy, intravenous therapy, they might have some restrictions, the type of medications you can give, the type of treatments. Typically, an LVN is supposed to take care of a patient with predictable outcomes. And that's the fancy words they use in Texas. Basically, that does not mean an LVN can work in the ICU, but they need to have a patient with predictable outcomes, meaning that it's a very sick patient, but within the next 12 hours, we're not expecting anything to go south, right? So definitely the scope of practice is more limited. And the type of places where a vocational nurse can gain employment is also different. The pandemic brought vocational nurses into the hospitals again. They used to be in the hospitals at some point about 5-10 years ago. They started saying, no, we want RNs. But they realized the value that vocational nurses bring to the table. So they are back in those settings. So salary-wise, there's also definitely a little bit of a difference, and the opportunities for advancement management and all those. In other states, by the way, they call them LPNs. So Texas and California were the only ones who call them vocational nurses. What else?
More questions?
Dr. Guerrero?
Yes, sir.
I have a couple of students earlier.
They're coming from Juarez, and they said, what kind of services do you offer, you know, because you want to transfer from people coming up abroad?
We do not have, through our program, an ability to give them credit from nursing school
Okay.
in other countries. They
From
might be able
Juarez?
to get credit for some, for some of the other coursework.
Yes, they would need to have to send their transcripts over. They do need to get them translated first through naces.org. They would pick an organization there to be able to do that for them. They would send them over to EPCC, and then our evaluators will go over to see what could transfer over. What I've seen transfer over sometimes are like the anatomies. They will transfer over their math, but anything with nursing courses that unfortunately we will not be able to take here. So they would need to start the program from scratch.
There are ways, not through a college, but there's a way that nurses from other countries can become nurses with their education from Mexico or the Philippines, but they have to go through a board of nursing for that. And Texas is particularly difficult to do that. A lot of people choose to go through California and some of the other smaller states.
Any more questions? Okay, I'm going to ask some of the questions. Sure. One of the questions that was asked was, what motivated you, or what inspired you to become a dean?
That's a good question. I always kind of had that in the back of my head, and then I've been teaching already for 10 years by the time that opportunity came up, and I saw that we had a good program, but that had a lot of potential in some areas. And I kind of just went for it. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but I decided, well, let's try it and see how I like it, and then see how it's working out for everybody else. And I think it's going well. So it was more of a why not type of thing at the moment.
Okay, another question that was asked was, what are you the most proud of in your career this far?
I don't know. I mean, I guess getting to be the dean, it's one of them. Definitely been more special than getting my doctorate. Actually, by the time I finished, I was just so done with that I didn't even go to commencement. I'm like just. But yeah, this is it's unusual, I guess, to become a dean earlier in your career. But I started my career in nursing early. I was 21 when I finished the nursing program, and then I started teaching at 26. So I had the experience. I just happened to be a little bit on the younger end, I guess. But yeah, I guess just becoming the dean has been the cherry on top.
Awesome. And one last question was, I don't know if you could answer this, but it says if you could rank 3 of the top hospitals to work for in El Paso.
Ooh, that's tricky because somebody's gonna go tell people. Well, I worked for the hospitals of Providence, and I had a good time while I was there, so there's that. UMC offers a whole different set of opportunities. They're a county hospital, they have their pension, and they're built completely different. They're a teaching hospital as well, so of course they offer something pretty different. So, but it's hard to say. Something that I also say is don't be afraid to not work in a hospital if that's not what calls your attention. Only about 60% of nurses work in hospitals, the rest work in the community, so I don't know, that one's a hard one.
Does anybody have any questions for the dean? Come on, somebody has to have a question. Vanessa?
What do you consider was the hardest segment in the nursing program here at EPCC?
Like the hardest part. I think right now the second semester medical surgical seem to be the most challenging area. It's a heavy area, and then truly the NCLEX is very heavy on medical surgical nursing. So we have some plans there to try to change that a little bit. We're seeing a little higher than usual numbers in drug dosage now. So we're working a little bit on that as well and see if we can provide something different for students in drug dosage. It's a little interesting because we have a lot of students passing the class with hundreds, but then we have some students that are missing something, so we're looking to find that. I do want to make informed decisions, so I'm not ready to say where we're going with that, but we started collecting data last year, so we'll see.
Anybody else have any questions? Like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food?
I like color black. Oh, it's back there. I think, yeah. You see my truck is black on black. So.
Hello, sir. I just want to ask, because I know with when in foundations, when you finish foundations, you're able to get a CNA, take the CNA test and be able to become a registered CNA. So I want to know if EPCC offers any other programs throughout the semester or throughout the course of the whole nursing program, depending on which year or which semester you're in, which they offer.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So definitely after you finish fundamentals, if you want to become a CNA, you don't have to test. We just have to validate that you finished the semester. And then for that, you have to contact my office. In the summer, we do have an option called the spin-off. So it's worked out well for students whose life presented them with an unusual challenge, something they did not expect, and they realized that they really need to start working. So finish first and second semester of the ADM program. And then in the summer, you can become an LVN by the end of the summer. So we had students do that because they're like, you know what, I didn't realize I was not gonna be in El Paso that long. My spouse is in the military, he's getting deployed. I have the option of staying here for another year by myself or moving somewhere else. I'm trying to find where to go. And then they might find that option helpful. Somebody who may already have a failure on their record and they don't wanna risk it, or just somebody who wants to have a plan B or start working already, so that's an option. For that, you need to just approach a counselor and ask them. We usually, we'll probably do an informational session. That will work perfect for those of you in fundamentals right now, because you do fundamentals in the fall, second semester in the spring, and then you're ready to do the summer spin-off. You can do the summer spin-off as a plan B, and then decide, you know what, let's not graduate from that yet. I'll continue in the ADM program. But if something happens, you can always go back and say, I'll graduate from the vocational program. So that's another opportunity.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
What exactly is the summer spinoff?
So in the summer spin-off, you will officially be, I guess, a vocational nursing student. So it starts pretty early in June. So you go the whole summer and you're gonna take OB, obstetrics and women's health and pediatrics for vocational nursing and their preceptorship and leadership course. Not the just the leadership course. So it's 3 courses with their clinicals. So 2 clinicals, 3 courses, right? And then at that point, at the beginning of August, then you're done. You can at that point test to become a vocational nursing and decide, I'll come back and to the transitions program later when I save some money or something, or you can continue right away, or you can just go work and be done with it for now. So it is a few courses. The issue with that is that if it's your plan B, it might affect your financial aid. So if you switch your major and claim that degree, then you cannot just go back to the other one easily, because you already have a degree. But we'll discuss all those options with you so you don't make a blind decision and then end up like, oh, that's not what I wanted. But that is not typically very competitive. For the most part, everybody who wants to do it, can do it.
Okay, if there's no more questions, I would like to close out. Thank Dean Guerrero for joining us. If we can give him a round of applause, please. Thank you for all your insights, all the advice you've given to the students, and we look forward to seeing you succeed with El Paso Community College. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So I'll hang out if in case anybody wants anything or needs anything. There's some information about Project Bravo and Project Arriba up here if anybody needs it.
Thank you once again.